Welcome to the Matchbook Betting Podcast, where we're back for another one of our Rugby World Cup betting previews. Joining me today is We Love O Betting's Mark O'Haire. I nearly said We Love O Betting now. Maybe it's a new title for the site, Mark. We Love Betting's Mark O'Haire. And the big man, Aidan Sully O'Sullivan, who's fresh off some success in the last weekend. Sorry, I don't mean to be quite so surprised, Sully, but I'll give you a chance to bask in your glory. Argentina-England game, called it the right way. Talk us through it.
Both time had a bloody winner. In fairness, look, Argentina had to play, 72 minutes, or not 72, even 62 minutes with 14 men. I still kind of have a feeling it was a 5-3 game at that stage. There was nothing really to tell me within that first 22 minutes that England were going to blow them out of the water, but I still probably would have been a bit confident there. I wouldn't have been overly confident, but look, it's just a shame the way that kind of game went in that sense. It would have obviously been far more of a contest, 15 on 15. I think they still would have won. I still was quietly confident they would have covered, but hard luck to Mark on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, we were talking during the game, and I got the sense that you would probably make the same bet again, would you not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no issue really with Sully and I going head to head and still kind of sticking to our guns on that. There's no issue whatsoever on that. It's just I felt Argentina, last game of the World Cup, would go out with a bang and give England plenty to ponder. I think they did, even playing with 14 men for quite some time. Finally ran out of gas as well. But hindsight's wonderful. But we've no idea how that game would have played out. 15 by 15. As I said last week, I would have imagined England would win with a bit of room to spare, but I'm not sure they would have been 3 scores better than Argentina. So, I would have backed it again. Just a great shame that what was potentially a really good game was spoiled by the red card early on. And I think World Rugby have to look at this going forward. It is a red card offence. Of course it is if you look at the rules, but do we really want sort of matches like this being spoiled so early on with those kind of tackles? It's very difficult for a guy who's 6'5" to get down low and make contact correctly in the heat of the moment when the pressure is on. It's very, very difficult. So I'm hoping that at some point in the future we'll start to review these situations and potentially bring in an extra card, or I've seen loads of different suggestions about how we can combat this kind of issue. But you look at, we've seen it in World Cups before. Wales with the red card. I
remember that one very well. Yeah.
Rugby's different to most sports. You need your full complements to make it competitive and an interesting case. And certainly last weekend, after that red card, I was very tempted just to turn the TV off because I thought that's game over straight away, which is a shame, really. But there we go.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like such a big stage to be bringing in this type of measure as well. No sort of experimentation at some of the larger leagues, or even in the Rugby Championship or the Six Nations or something, where you're really cracking down on it to this extent. It does seem a bit extreme, and it is definitely ruining games. And as you say, there may be some amber card or something for 20 minutes off the field, or some kind of punishment, because the red card just kills a game. You can't defend for 60 minutes with 14 men. When you're at any kind of disparity as well, it's just not possible.
If it's a blatant mistake, which it was, it's just a mistake of tackling high rather than kind of going out with real force to hurt someone, a punch or stamp or that kind of thing, then there has to be some sort of allowance and mitigating circumstances, which there are, but I don't think there's enough really to take it into account. But you're spoiling a match for an hour, which is
absolutely
what it was.
Yeah, I mean, luckily they've not really done anything else to piss people off this tournament, the organisers. So it's fine. It'll probably be forgotten. I mean, we can't really talk about.
When do we get talking about the weather?
As I was saying, we can't really talk about this. Talk about this weekend with Typhoon Haggis or whatever it's called. Yeah. It's going to obliterate the Scots. I mean, Mark flagged this up in our outright preview. The idea that this could happen. Matches could be cancelled and 0-0. We kind of laughed about it, and Time said, surely they'll come up with some mitigating stuff. Surely this will happen, and here we are.
You had so-called shrewd guys coming onto Matchbook during the week trying to back the draws in those England-New Zealand games. But obviously, with the rules, the game actually has to be played. You can't just back a draw and hope that it's a 0-all called by Rugby World Cup. We kind of knew that this was coming down the line. I just think it's been a bit of a mess, and even from betting perspectives, you're kind of looking at it and you just wonder, like, totals are going to be really, really late this week. There's no two ways about that. If you're any bit of you know, if you're any bit of a copped on odds compiler here, you're not going to start throwing up numbers, overnight numbers, especially because, like, even just looking at the radar at the moment, you'll have to pretty much wait and see. We've looked at all the different venues over the weekend, which we'll get to in a while. So it's Saturday is kind of the damaging day, obviously, for this, where the typhoon does come in and the rain it'll bring as well, and the impact that it will have on the conditions, because a lot of those Sunday games, none of them actually in a dome, from the best of my knowledge. So they're all outdoors, and that will have its impact. And we'll get to the state of the pitch in Fukuoka for the Ireland game as well. We've seen that. BBC Northern Ireland tweeted about it this morning, about Chris Farrell literally picking up a solid pitch and putting the ball underneath it. So there's so many variables to talk about this weekend that from kind of coming into this podcast thinking, will we have any games to preview? We still have 5, and I think there's a hell of a lot of storylines even outside of them. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend.
Yeah, I think there's still some good bets we can pick out this weekend. It's just perhaps not the weekend we were expecting. But I mean, before we get into the weekend's matches, maybe let's have a little dive into the outright market, see what's happened since we did our outright preview back in the day. I mean, not a lot has changed. We don't really expect a lot to change. I mean, the qualification, the teams qualifying, sorry, I should say, are kind of what we expected, with the small issues in Pool A, although I believe Mark called that one correctly anyway.
It, yeah. Mark was on the ball with that. He said that, like, Japan will give Scotland a run. We'll get to that game in a while. But like, literally looking back at the outright betting that we had for that anti-post preview, obviously New Zealand favourites at 2.52. They're now 2.26. South Africa were 5.4. They're now 5.3. Absolutely no change, more or less. I'll give my opinion on that in a second. England 5.9. They're now 5.8. So that'll just give you an idea. The only kind of switch thereafter is we had Ireland as the fourth favourite. Wales are now the fourth favourite, 11.0. Obviously, they're technically in that weaker side of the quarter-final, but is it really the weaker side? Well, it is, I suppose, obviously, with South Africa.
Slightly weaker
It is
side,
slightly weaker side. Obviously, the Irish have drifted out to 20.0. They were 12.5 pre-tournament. Australia out to 24, 19.0 pre-tournament. France 37.0 pre-tournament. Obviously, Japan are probably the big movers. They're in about 45 now. I think they were pretty much, you got to back them 100, 150 to 1 pre-tournament. So, yeah, look, that's where we're at.
How are you feeling about South Africa? I mean,
I'm not changing. Like, in all honesty, the price is right. I'd nearly probably go back in again. I mean, what I've seen of them, and obviously we have to, look at this and see their opposition. They had Italy, they had Namibia, they had Canada. They switched up their teams a lot, but I think their style of play is expanding, especially in an attacking sense. They're very much together, and I just can't see how many teams are going to stop that rolling ball. They have it absolutely down to the T. Their key guys are playing well. I thought Jesse Creel was a bit of a loss there recently, because he's a great guy to cover the backs. But bringing someone like Damien Willemse back in there is, just a really big thing. Interested to hear Mark's thoughts, but I think Mark, you more or less predicted a New Zealand-South Africa final, and have we seen anything to change that?
No, I think you've covered it very well there, Sully. You look at the outright market, nothing's really changed, because nothing has really changed, really. Wales have come in slightly, Australia have drifted out. That's just because Wales beat them in the pool stage. Ireland the big movers because of that defeat. They're not going to win the group, or it doesn't look like it anyway. So, I'd still have a New Zealand-South Africa final down there. 2 of the last 3 finals in the World Cup have featured 2 teams from the same pool. It looks like being the case again here. As you say, there's very little to really glean from Pool B, really, over New Zealand, South Africa. South Africa started that game against New Zealand very, very well, but New Zealand showed their composure, their clinical nature as well, under pressure to really come to the fore thereafter. So I don't think it's ideal that they get a 2-week break coming into the quarterfinals. They would have liked to have bedded Brodie Retallick in, I guess, and a couple of others, give them a bit more game time. But I don't think you can ever really kind of rule out New Zealand just because they've got an extra week's rest. And then South Africa, the only real issues for me really are, you mentioned them there, Sully, but Estebat's court case back home. Potentially he might have to go home. I'm sure they'll probably sort it so he doesn't have to. But Villy Leroux as well, his defensive 15 is always a concern for me. But outside of that, they do the basics very well. The kind of team you want to have on side. England are just the one I'm kind of starting to get a little bit concerned about now, because my big issue against them going into this tournament was the fact they'd have to play 5 Tier 1 nations in consecutive weeks. But with the game against France being called off now, they play Argentina, they get a 2-week break, and now they come in, relatively unscathed really for that quarter-final tie. And now you're looking at 3: Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, potentially like that as the route to the final, which is still very, very difficult. But it looks a little bit more. It's kind of really even playing Argentina, France, and then the 3 Southern Hemisphere teams straight after. So there is a bit of concern there, but I still like the look of Wales. I think they've still got the kind of nicer side of the draw. Obviously, the price has contracted a little bit. There are concerns there at kind of standoff really with Biggar's head injuries, Anscombe being missing. Patchell's capable, of course he is, but I do like Biggar's leadership and his composure at 10. But outside of that, it's very difficult to make a case for any of the teams. I guess Australia would be the one, because they've really pissed me off actually in the first couple of weeks by trying to play Fiji and Wales at their own game, and Cheika not kind of selecting his team based on his own team's strengths and styles. But they are a team that if they do get it together, they are very, very dangerous. And you wouldn't want to rule them out against any team. I know there was allowances for their win against New Zealand this year, but I certainly looked at them and in patches. They've put some really, really impressive rugby together.
Yeah.
So if they can keep it together, I think they're very dangerous under
that second half against Wales, especially. I thought that was, that was probably them at their peak, and when they moved Samoa to 10. I'll be honest, I called that one wrong. I thought Foley was their best 10. I think finally he might get the message that we're recording this on Friday morning. He's starting Samoa at 10 against Georgia. I'd leave him there and leave, Karevi and James O'Connor in the centres at that 10, 12, 13 channel. But they're probably an interesting one, right? But I'm definitely not getting off the South African bandwagon. I think if you look ahead, even if we're looking at, we're without getting too far ahead of ourselves, if it is a New Zealand South Africa final, you're still going to be able to back South Africa there, probably +6, +7. Very similar it'll be very similar betting wise to the first pool game, I would imagine. It's going to be at the same venue as well. Be interesting. And obviously next week is the key one. When we start talking about the quarterfinals, we can, we're more or less starting a brand new tournament then.
Yeah, I mean, if you're kind of looking at these quarterfinals and the potential run into the final, bearing in mind what Mark's saying, just looking at the prices there, Australia to make the final at 9.4 doesn't look like a terrible bet potentially.
Yeah. They're all that.
The All Blacks, isn't it?
Yeah, just the All Blacks.
But 9.4. They're not going to be like.
There's a reason it's
sevens there.
There's a reason it's that. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like if we're looking at those outright prices, if it's England against Australia, I'm just thinking that England will probably be at. What do you think, Mark? Would be a 7-point favourite?
I was going to say, you say 7.
Yeah,
not 2 scores better than Australia, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. And then probably if it's a neutral field, New Zealand, Australia. But again, that's all reflecting. If Australia beat England in the quarterfinal, you've got to take them for real then. And obviously that handicap against New Zealand probably could be 9. For thinking that way. So it'll be interesting.
We can't wrap up the outright review without mentioning your man. The man that I castigated Sully for choosing the top try scorer, second choice South African hooker in a win-only outright market. But I mean, these days they're 12s now, 12.0.
Good trading opportunity, Alan. Yeah, good trading opportunity. Yeah.
Some call from you there, my friend.
So look, you see me like Cobus Reinach the last day. Like he's terrific player. It was even that move for him for Northampton last season was great for him, getting 3 tries the last day. But yeah, I think the way it's looking, he could actually start as well. No, I know with Razzie, he gives his first choice hooker 50-55 minutes, and then he brings in his sub hooker anyway. But just even on South Africa as well, I think that probably what's being underrated with them is that they've got an exceptionally good coaching setup as well. For me, Razzie Erasmus is probably the top guy in the game, even over Steve Hansen. Look, still very much on the South Africa bandwagon, and it'll be interesting now from next week onwards. I think they'll put their stamp on this tournament for real.
Yeah, I think there's still a little bit of value left in that market. I think Josh Adams has gone far too short there. Got 4 tries already. Wales not going to score a huge amount of tries in the remainder of these games, are they? They may not even make it past the quarterfinals.
Josh Adams starts against Uruguay too, doesn't he? Pretty sure he does. He starts 14. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
he's
good.
one of the few guys.
I didn't realize he started. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, fair point. That's probably why. Then I take it back.
Yeah.
Put those words back in my mouth. It's fine.
Roll it back in. Roll it back in.
Anyway, enough time on that.
Yeah.
Let's go into this weekend's action. Japan, Scotland. Who wants to put their hands up for a review on that one? First of all, what odds are you making it taking place, Sully? What's your book on that?
Oh no, I think it takes place. We talked off air about this. I think the main damage, like I said earlier, is Saturday, and obviously, you're probably more looking at kind of the infrastructure damage that's around, the stadium, the access points, everything else. I think that's probably the bigger fear there. I would say this would be a catastrophe if it's not played, a PR disaster for World Rugby. So I think even if it's a kind of a case of that there's an immense amount of damage done in Yokohama on even Saturday, that they'll somehow get the teams and they'll get a TV crew into the stadium and get this game played and get it televised. And in fairness to Japan, they'll want this played as well, Alan. Like they won't want a kind of a situation where they're getting into the quarterfinal essentially on a bye. So it's good for them. It's all the hallmarks of a terrific game. I think, unfortunately, it might be a lot slower. We talked pre-tournament that this game was kind of one of the standout group games, and like in terms of what it could be excitement levels, because they both want to really play an up-tempo kind of game. But I think it'll be the team who actually, plays the conditions that bit better. And look, current betting at the moment at Matchbook, you're talking Scotland 1.8. What have we got here? Japan 2.46. So very slim handicap there as well, 1.5, 2 points, with Japan getting the favourite. Pre-tournament look-ahead line, Scotland were a 9-point favourite in this spot. And I think, and I'm thinking Mark may agree with me, may not, I think Scotland are a shade of value here at 1.8. Now, more or less full try, converted tries come off that handicap. And in fairness, Japan deserved that. I do think that opposition notwithstanding, the fact that they beat Russia and they beat Samoa and blanked them, Scotland actually have bounced back quite well. Again, opposition notwithstanding, they weren't really tested, but I did think that first couple of minutes against Samoa, the old Scottish kind of psyche, they might have kind of gone back into their shell, but they kind of kept going. They actually varied their game plan a lot better. Finn Russell kicked in behind the Samoans, and he's going to have to do that here as well. Greg Laidlaw is coming for a lot of criticism in the last couple of weeks, because we've seen obviously George Horn starting a scrum half and what he can bring. But I think Laidlaw is actually ideal for this game. I wouldn't start Horn here. He might come off the bench. But where it's going to be won and lost for me is the back row. Japanese back row has been absolutely exceptional. They've been really, really good. This guy at number 8, Jimeno, he's a serious player, 25 years of age. I'm just thinking of even clubs in Europe. He could start on the vast majority of clubs, even in the Heineken Cup. Labuschagne is a serious operator as well. Leach then will bring his own thing in. He's obviously on the road a lot longer. If Scotland with Bradbury, Ritchie, who's been played really well in the last game as well, and Blade Thompson, I think, is at 8. If they can they'll need to just at least get parity there. If they can get parity there, I think Scotland will win. I love the 11-14 battle at 11 for Scotland, Darcy Graham, and Matsushima for Japan. That is like going to be, if it's anywhere dry at all and these guys get ball, it's going to be an absolute belter. But yeah, look, it's not going to be a massive bet for me. I think Scotland are valued on. I think that they'll play the conditions that bit better. And remember, Japan can actually still go through if they lose this game. I think it's with a losing bonus point. I might just have to double check that. But, I think Scotland may have turned a slight bit of a corner after that Ireland defeat, getting back on the road against, those two Samoa and Russia performances. But, Scotland for me at 1.8.
You reckon we're looking at 80 minutes of Greg Laidlaw box kicking and looking angry at the referee? Is that sort of game?
Yeah, it might have to be, and I think, I think Scotland can play that game. If we probably look, it might not suit them to play that game. But if you look at the Irish performance against Japan, they went away too far from it. They tried to engage Japan at their own kind of game, and it didn't work. And I presume Gregor Townsend has enough cop on to say that this isn't going to work against Japan. We need to turn this into like, you know, a wet Friday night at Murrayfield or something like that. You know, play a bit of Pro 14 rugby, I would suggest.
You think Scotland look a bit of value at 1.8, Mark? Do you agree with Sully?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I didn't want to come into this week saying Scotland are value, but that's the way the market's gone, really. And I think Sully summed up very nicely there. Weather obviously plays a massive part in this, and it's impossible to say what it's going to be like on Sunday. But you know, I think a lot of this comes in sort of mental, the mental side of things for me. You know, I did sort of talk up Japan pre-tournament. They've shown what they were capable of against Ireland, but let's not forget they were 12-0 down and looking vastly second best in those opening exchanges before the tide turned. So there's no real surprise left for Scotland. They know what to expect now. If the weather is good, you know, there's no surprise about how Japan will want to try and play this game. So, and I think there's a huge weight of expectation now on Japan's shoulders to come through this game. I think the last game against Samoa, at one point they had the match on TV had a 46% share of the TV audience, which is absolutely enormous and just shows how the Japanese public have become very much captivated by this World Cup run and the World Cup itself. Reports from people at the stadium suggest that the atmosphere inside these matches is nothing like they've ever experienced at rugby before. And I do think there's a fine line between the kind of the 16th man, as we saw against Ireland, working for them, potentially working against them, as we saw against Samoa and Russia, where they were very disjointed and weren't anywhere near as good as they were against Ireland. So I think Scotland are very fair favourites. Certainly not going to be an easy ride, but the win against Russia with 14 changes certainly allowed Gregor Townsend the opportunity to rest and rotate. His team has certainly come to the party since that Ireland game. The short turnaround isn't ideal, but the weather chat and the threat of cancellation too could really act as a massive motivational tool. We've seen the Scottish, not just the media, but also Gregor Townsend and some of the management coming out all guns blazing this week in their attack really on the authorities to get this game on. And I think, you know, Scotland have a lot to prove here. Japan, I just worry about them when the expectation is on them. And I think they could be coming into this game with expectation from the fans, from the locals, to suggest that they should be winning this game. And I'm not sure it's as clean cut as that, as the betting would suggest. So I think if you look at Japan's games, take out the kind of New Zealand, Australia and England, their results have been reasonably decent. They've avoided defeat in 6 of the last 16 against Tier 1 teams. If you exclude those teams, beaten Italy twice, South Africa, Ireland, Storm of France and Paris, a Welsh reserve team as well. But I just think Scotland's extra big game experience really could play a part here. The motivational factor too. So, you know, there's no real sort of stats or trends to back it up here, but I make Scotland around a 60% chance here. And if you can get 1.8, it's around a 55%. So small amount of value there, but yeah, I'd rather Scotland at 1.8 than Japan at 2.4 for sure.
Just one more thing, Alan. Sorry, just to jump in on the back end of what Mark is saying. You know, you look back at that Samoa Japan game. You know, with 6 minutes to go, that was a 7-point game, and you know, Japan obviously went into that as a 19-point favorite, and the expectation that came with that. And yes, they're slight underdogs here, but like Mark said, there's a hell of a lot of expectation here, and also they made a kind of a mess of it a few times, but when Samoa got the rolling maul going against Japan, there was a hell of a lot of success there. And there was a couple of times that the ref should have called a penalty. He didn't. Again, it was Jakob Piper ref, and that there was a couple of strange decisions there. And we have Ben O'Keefe refereeing on Sunday, which I'd kind of have doubts about as well. But I think, like Mark said about Scotland, if this game does go ahead, and we're kind of confident it will, they're going to be so relieved to be in this opportunity. They're going to have this opportunity to qualify for the quarterfinals when it could so easily be taken away from them. And I think they'll make a count. And they're, you know, 1 to 15, they're still, you know, the better team. Japan have some decent players. Let's not get away from that. But I think if you stack it up, I think talent-wise, Scotland just have a small bit over them.
It's not just World Rugby either with the sort of motivational factor from Scotland. They'll be hurting from that Ireland game, and they'll be well aware that people like ourselves have been talking up Japan, almost saying that Japan should probably be winning this game, and that's going to hurt them, let alone the thrashing to Ireland. So they've got a lot to prove, and they'll be desperate to prove it too. So, for me, it's not really a 1 to 15, where the game is going to be won. It's more kind of a mental approach to this match and just seeing where the two teams are at. And I think the look-up headline, I think you said it was 9 points.
9 points, Scotland were favourites, yeah.
It was probably a bit too generous in Scotland's favour. I would have made it closer to a 5 or 6 point game, and I haven't really kind of gone away from that at the moment. So I think Scotland 1.8 is the way to go.
Fun dynamic around this pool as well, that with the way the points are, it's entirely possible for Scotland to win and not go through, because they're currently on 10, Ireland are on 11, Japan are on 14. I mean, Japan get bonus points from this game. Scotland don't.
Good luck trying to work out the permutations, Alex. I've done that a few times. And it's not easy.
Yeah, you could get a really fun dynamic at the end of that game where it's possible Scotland are pushing ahead for the win and they can't even go through, or vice versa. Anyway, it's a fun one to keep in mind when you're watching that game potentially, or maybe.
I think they're clued in enough though with Laidlaw there as captain and whatnot that
if Ireland blitz Samoa on Saturday, then those permutations are much more easy to understand. So.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. But let's hope for a fun one. Keep us entertained. Okay, let's move on to the other big game of the weekend. Well, certainly the big game for us. Ireland Samoa. Big game for you two, I should say.
Well, we should probably look at the Sunday's other games first, Alex.
You really?
I think, Mark, have you got an opinion on Wales? I'll be honest, I don't actually have opinions on a lot of these games. I know that there's a lot of rain forecast on Saturday for Kamaishi for Namibia and Canada. That'll be one to look at, the total when that goes out. If it's, have a look at that. If it's kind of like late 40s, I'd say you should be having a look at the over, the under even. I have nothing for the other games, but I do suspect that Mark has an angle for Wales and Uruguay. 45.5 is the current handicap. Mark O'Haire.
Go at it, Mr. O'Haire. Let us know.
Yeah, it's the best of luck with it.
It's I'm with Uruguay with the start, really. A bit simplistic, really, but Wales have had a bit of a grueler against Fiji in midweek. Be pretty bruised and battered by that. They want to be starting planning for next week's quarter-final. So no bonus point is required here. I suspect if you offered Gatland, a 20-0 win, he'd be very happy with it. Just avoid injuries, get the job done. I can't imagine performance levels are going to be a huge value here. It's all about next week for Wales. Get the 4 points and get out, really. And Uruguay produced that fantastic result against Fiji. There were allowances for that result, as we've discussed many times on this podcast now. But they've since lost out to both Georgia and Australia by 26 and 35-point margins. We're chucking another 2 scores onto this against Australia for Wales, really, compared to the Australian game, in a match that shouldn't really matter too much, really. And Uruguay have covered this line in all their previous World Cup meetings. They've covered this line in a previous World Cup meeting 4 years ago against an almost full-strength Wales team in their own backyard. That's when they were still amateur as well. So they've improved massively since then. As I've said before, they've invested in their rugby academy in Montevideo. Nearly almost all the squad are now professional, most of which are playing, admittedly, in the American League. But their schedule has been very, very tough. They've yet to lose by more than 35 points, despite playing Fiji, Georgia, and Australia in the space of 10 days. And they've got a full week's rest for this. It's the last game of the competition. I wouldn't say that they're going to be the best prepared for it, but they certainly should be better than the last 2 games with that extra rest too. So they've never got within 30 points of a Tier 1 team at the World Cup in 8 previous games. I'm not suggesting they will do, but I do like their chances of staying within sort of 45, 46 points. So I just think, I don't know, Alan can correct me here, but it feels like a match that Wales really aren't that bothered about. It's all about next week, so get the job done and just get out of it.
Yeah, I think that's entirely probable. I think they'll be looking to avoid injuries as well. They won't be. I can't imagine they're going to be playing this game at absolute hell for leather pace. It's a decent looking side. It's a strong looking side, but yeah, I'm kind of with you on this. It also feels to me, my spidey senses are tingling. It feels to me a little bit like a Sully's points unders bet on this match. Loves an unders on a Wales game. Possibly looking at it here, my friend.
Yeah, but again, look, it's just so hard to tell what these lines are going to be. I think actually Wales is probably, what was that called? Kumamoto is pretty much, it's one of the furthest south venues. So I think that will actually totally miss the rain and stuff. So I wouldn't even be worried about that weather-wise. Yeah, look, I actually didn't have any major opinion on this until Mark kind of sold me a bit on Uruguay, but I can totally see the angle. Like 45 and a half. I mean, there's
I
only
mean, the
there's only
lines.
80 minutes in the game, anyway, first of all. And what's like you guys said, what is the benefit for Wales here to absolutely,
I know
They're not.
Georgia are obviously a notch up above Uruguay, but we
yeah,
saw in that game the first half get the job done and just kind of close the game out,
yeah,
which is how I kind of see this game probably playing out.
Yeah,
yeah.
make a load of subs, kind of lose a bit of structure, and not going to be knocking their pan out trying to cover the handicap line here, are they? Let's
And
face
Uruguay are
it.
going to be gunning for 80 minutes as well. It's the last game;
Yeah,
they want to keep things
exactly. Yeah.
respectable. So,
And they
But
have
yeah,
a bit of rest time now as well. And uh, Wales strike me as just very similar to Ireland, which we will get to in a second. They just don't really ever blow teams out. They're not like what South Africa did the last day to Canada and these kind of teams. And yeah, I just don't really see where would the benefit would be there. Like I said, like they're up by 30 points even with 10 or 20 minutes to go. Why do they want to be kicking on? And I don't know. I like the anglers plus 45 and a half. And sure, look, we're getting up Sunday morning. I need to check to see if the other game is on, so we might as well watch this and bet.
got Wales minus 45, minus 46. That total's got to be
Yeah.
around 50 or something, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
that's
it's kind of more now, yeah. So you're like, if your point expectancy, if you're expecting Wales' team total to be you're probably giving Uruguay 9 or 10, maybe 7 or 8, that kind of way. So yeah, it's got to be in the 50s, anyway, late 50s.
I'm telling you now, Sully will be backing that under come Sunday morning. He may not want to commit to it on the podcast, but I can guarantee that's where his money will be going.
Sunday morning under is hard to beat him.
But more importantly, Mark O'Haire, where's your money going for the big game, Ireland Samoa on Saturday? The only one taking place, so it's the only thing we can watch. So let's get a bet on it, for goodness sake.
yeah, I mean, Sully might be stronger on this than I am, but Samoa plus the start really is where I'd go. He's already mentioned there, Ireland don't tend to put teams away, take teams to the cleaners. We've seen that numerous times, not just last week against Russia. I think from an Irish perspective, it's similar to how Wales will approach that Uruguay game. It's just get the job done, get the bonus point, absolutely assure themselves of being in that top 2 and pull almost a damage limitation job, trying to avoid injuries as best as possible, because the Samoans will be gunning to try and hurt them. They've struggled to get close to hefty handicaps against Russia, obviously lost the game to Japan as well. They have covered minus 27 in 9 of 12 meetings against non-tier 1 nations over the past 2 World Cup cycles. But I just get the impression that, especially from a Samoan side of things, they're the kind of team that do benefit from the extra time in camp, planning and preparing with their team for much longer than they're used to. Facilities improved as well, so there's a lot to like about the Samoan team. They've already talked about how they've grown into the competition. They're desperate to leave a mark on this competition too. They're really sort of talking themselves up to leave everything on the park for this last game. It's not going to be an easy ride for Ireland at all. They're going to have to overcome what's expected to be a very physical performance. We've talked about their game against Japan, where they're within 7 points in the last 10 minutes as well. So there are a decent enough team to keep this game reasonably competitive. I think the issue really for Samoa is discipline. We've talked about numerous times as well, the amount of yellow cards and red cards as well. And they're arguably coming up against the cleanest team, maybe not in this competition, but the cleanest team in world rugby in the last couple of years under Joe Schmidt. So that could prove their undoing, as could their set piece and their kicking game. But I think if things start to unravel, Ireland could easily make them pay. But I think Ireland will approach this game, try and keep things tight, attempt to play the game that made them a success over the past 4 years, try and get the 5 points to get the bonus, 5 tries to get the bonus point. But I don't anticipate them kind of running amok and putting up a huge score here. So I think Samoa with the start probably is the way to play.
Yeah, I mean, my only issue with that would be that Samoa have looked. What's the opposite of good so far? I mean, Sully, are you lining up with Mark here, or are you going to look and take him on again?
No, I'd actually agree with Mark here, and probably disagree slightly with the Samoans. I thought they were quite good against Japan. They looked a lot more organised. Not the breakdown. They were far more improved. They were far more. Yeah, obviously they got one of those yellow cards again, which is always the danger with them. It seems to be a recurring theme with their discipline issues. But I can have this Irish team, the way they're playing at the moment, minus 28. 28.5 currently at Matchbook. Obviously, you have to give up a small bit, 1.79 to get that 28.5. I will actually, there's a bit of margin there close to the kickoff time. You should be able to get back that at a decent enough price. But yeah, I just backing that team, just under minus 30 points at the moment. I can't see it. Even, Samoa just aren't bad. It's like I said to the previous podcast, they've got some decent players. Maybe the first half line, I think it's 13.5, and it's actually good odds against with Samoa. That might be an angle, but I thought they looked, outside of that sin binning in the first half against Japan, they were well up for this. They have a good goal kicker in Typhoon, and yeah, there's just so many doubts about Ireland at the moment that you couldn't be laying that number. And even against Russia, I mean, what was it, 21-0 at halftime? They got 2 very soft tries already. Then they kind of went to sleep for the last 20 minutes of the first half. Very, poor in the first 20 minutes of the second half. And, kind of, I wouldn't say they were sweating on that bonus point, but, it was never a thing that they just kind of looked exceptionally comfortable with. Interested to see Jordan Larmour back in at 15 ahead of Rob Kearney. It's kind of a brave enough decision, I think, and a good one for Schmidt. He's a bit of a game breaker. Yeah, we talked about the pitch at the top. This was relayed after the France and USA game, and clearly they haven't, done a great job of it. And relaying pitches in the middle of a tournament, and obviously in a stadium that's obviously not used to this kind of game. I think they play soccer there most of the time. Then yeah, there's doubts about the pitch too, and the pitch cutting up, and it could just slow this kind of game into a bit more of a grind. Obviously the goal for the Irish is to get the bonus point, but yeah, I can't see them blanking Samoa. I think there's probably is a try in Samoa somewhere. Like Mark said, it's the final game of the tournament, and when it is the team's final game of the tournament, you tend to generally get their best, so yeah, tentative vote for Samoa plus 28.5, but not much more now. I think I'm a small more bullish than Scotland.
I should say that I do like Schmidt's team for this game. He's obviously got the Murray-Sexton partnership back in. Robbie Henschel's playing his first game after injuries. Bundiaki's going to be well up for it, playing against the Samoan heritage and friends. So there's a lot to like about this team, but as you say, it's very hard to be confident about a team that's clearly been underperforming for not just this competition, but a little while longer too. So big test for Ireland. I think they need to put on a bit of a show to get any sort of confidence going into next weekend, which is going to be mighty tough whoever they're playing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it could be one of those games where it looks like you're going to cover the handicap easily if you're on Ireland, and then once the sting gets taken out of the game and Ireland get their bonus point, that maybe they might come back a bit? Or what's the kind of how do you see the shape of the game playing out?
Yeah, and again, it might be a good option here for unders, because if you're kind of confident enough that the Irish defence, which has been pretty good, I mean, obviously Japan aside, anyway, they're obviously good against Scotland. They had a clean sheet as well against Russia, but Samoa might find it hard to score tries. You could look if you're thinking that way, and that once Ireland, if and when they do get that bonus point, again, I just can't see why they're going to uproot trees here to start putting down a score, risk injuries. But yeah, no, I'd be kind of late. I'd be taking the points and probably backing an under in this one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's an interesting one for Ireland. They do need to tee themselves up, because their quarterfinal, if they make it, let's assume they do, is going to be tough whoever they're playing. So yeah, you do get the sense that they're not going to uproot trees. They're going to want to put on a strong performance, aren't they?
That's the one thing I would say really about Ireland in this World Cup is hoping it's not Scotland, but not just Ireland. There are a few teams in this World Cup who haven't really come to the boil just yet, and I know injuries have played their part in this Irish team, this tournament as well, but I do feel that they are capable of putting one massive effort together. I'm not saying they're going to beat the All Blacks or the Springboks, but
you are, Mark. That's what you're saying. Come on now.
But I think we're in danger of almost putting Ireland, the Irish rugby team, especially from the Irish media and the Irish rugby fans, alongside the way the English treat the English football team at a major tournament. The strongest play against Scotland, they're talked about as potentially going the whole way. And suddenly we lose to Japan, and all that hype is evaporated, and now they're the worst team in the world and stuff. There is some sort of balance that has to be found. Ireland are very capable on their day to put together a World Cup winning performance, but it's whether they, the evidence suggests that's not going to be the case. But I wouldn't be writing them off.
No,
enormously.
I'd be of a similar view to that, but I just don't think that, this is probably the game for them to bring it. I think if they're going to bring it, obviously it's going to be against South Africa or New Zealand. Yeah, I just don't think that there's a major once you get this bonus point. I don't think I think their Joe Schmidt's a smart enough operator that he knows that going out here and putting 60 on Samoa is going to appease anyone at home, because expectations are so high in the last couple of years. But there is just.
Sorry, Sully. You saw Schmidt's reaction to the win against Russia afterwards. He was like, "Everything's dandy. We've got the 5 points. We've got the win, and we've got everything we came for here." And we were all like, "Well, we're kind of expecting a bit better than that."
Could be kind of just slow rolling all of us. Potentially. I mean, it's just one of those things that I don't really see it right now. I don't think it's a kind of a sport that you can just kind of sleepwalk through certain games and then just hit this turbo button to play the All Blacks and Springboks, because we've already seen those guys and they haven't hit their turbo buttons yet either. You can be sure of that. So, but what they've done, it looks far more cohesive. It looks far more fluid, and the eye test, with different stuff, with structures, with knock-ons, with teams just not playing to anywhere near their potential. And yeah, that's this Irish team kind of in a nutshell right now. So, but yeah, look, on their day, absolutely, they've beaten the All Blacks twice in the last 5 years. They very much can do it again. Yeah, probably not holding up much hope right now.
I was just going to put that on the record there. You heard it here first. Mark O'Haire says Ireland are going to beat the All Blacks. So let's just move on. We don't need to go any further.
That's for next week's podcast, though. We'll tip them up then.
Hell of a
Might
shout.
be playing the Springboks. You never know.
Yeah.
That pool is still fascinating. The permutations of that. Let's hope it throws up some
Scotland
probably
beat
confusing
Japan.
ones.
Who knows how it's going to end up.
Right then. I mean, let's get some best bets for the weekend. I mean, obviously, outright thing. Sully wants to reload on South Africa and cash out on Bongi, but
I'm staying all in on Bongi. I'm staying all in. Yeah, small money, but staying all in.
What a man! What's your best bet for the weekend, though, Sully?
Best bet for the weekend: Flora Scotland, 1.8 matchbook currently to beat Japan. I really wanted to sing it, but Mark, are you in agreement with me on Scotland?
I am, but I'm actually, I prefer the play on Uruguay with the plus start, 45, 46. It just feels very, very steep. We've seen in this competition already that these underdogs aren't capable of keeping things reasonably competitive. I think Wales' eyes are on next week. They just want to get the job done. They don't need the bonus point. A very physical game against Fiji in midweek. It's all about kind of resting, recuperating, and preparing for a quarter-final tie. Uruguay have stayed within 35 points of all three of their games already this tournament, despite those taking place in 10 days. They've had a full week's rest. It's the last game of the tournament. They want to avoid an embarrassment. So, I kind of probably make that about a 2-point play and Scotland 1.5 points. So, a slight nudge more towards Uruguay with the start.
Lovely stuff. Right then, folks, weather permitting, we've got a lovely looking bet on Scotland, and really sold on the Uruguay bet from Mark O'Haire there. Natural Welsh pessimist, expecting us to not play very well anyway. But no, I think the reason.
Well, you're fine. You can still win by 44 if you want. There's no problem there. Even 45. Win by 45 if you want. It's still a good day out.
I'll be honest with you. I'll probably be looking at some alternative handicaps for that one. I think 45 sounds ambitious. I think Mark makes a very strong case for that, and I think taking the foot off the pedal is definitely the way forward. Anyway, let's not ramble on. Thanks very much, gents. Thanks to you all for listening and watching as well, and we'll hopefully see you again for the quarterfinals, unless they cancel them all. Take care.